What's up, guys? Welcome back for another episode. You guys have got to check out this story right here. Texas Democratic lawmakers are leaving the state to break quorum to stop Republican voting bill. Veteran Capitol observers say this is uncharted territory. So, this video right here, not this video, this picture right here is a snapshot of uncharted territory. And it's funny how when it's Democrats obstructing a bill for Republicans, it's quote unquote uncharted territory. But if this was, guys, imagine the tantrum, the absolute hissy fit, the absolute losing of minds the national media would be throwing, would have, if this was Republicans fleeing the state just so Democrats couldn't pass a bill. I mean, they want you to believe that it is a threat to the democratic process to ask people for voter ID. But for it's not a threat to the democratic process for an entire political party to purposefully leave their state in order to deny quorum. So you got to ask yourself this: what is in this American voting bill, this Texas bill that's so anti-American? What is it? But before we get into that, guys, if you already have it, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. And let's just dive into this insanity by this group of largely this group of largely women who hopped on this plane, headed into uncharted territories. But again, they're not obstructing any democratic process. They're not the ones who are trying to undermine democracy. No, no, no. They're the saviors of the democracy. So what is in this so-called un-American voting bill? NPR reports the latest bills in Texas include new identification requirements for people voting by mail and prohibit local election officials from sending a mail by application to someone who hasn't requested it. So think about that. Think about how simple that is. You have to request a ballot to get a ballot. Oh my goodness. That is a threat to democracy. Okay, you're winning me over. Number two, they also banned drive through voting and extended hours during early voting. Okay, that's a real threat. The bill expands what partisan poll watchers can observe during elections and prohibits poll watchers from being removed for violating election law. If passed, these bills would also create new criminal penalties for any election worker who intentionally or knowingly refuses to accept a poll watcher. So this to me sounds like they're just trying to sure up that there are people there to ensure transparency at the ballot box. These poll watchers need to be there. Both parties, Democrat and Republican, have to be there to properly adjudicate the ballot, to properly oversee the ballot, to properly see and ensure that the voting is going according to legislative law. NPR goes on to report the bills also create a slew of new criminal penalties and requirements for folks who assist voters at the polls or people who assist others planning to vote by mail. For example, they require that people fill out paperwork if they are taking someone who is not a relative to vote in person. And they require people to exit the car if there is someone voting curbside in that vehicle. So of course, the deep threat there is that you have to get you have to get out of your car and show some sort of ID. And as you guys know, as we already know, the Democrats hate ID because the Democrats hate order. All they want is the least amount of restrictions possible to vote because they have spun this conspiracy of voter suppression. The Republicans are the party of voter suppression, and they always want to make it out. You've heard this before. It disproportionately affects people of color. I'm so tired of hearing about what disproportionately affects people of color. I mean, look at me. I'm a person of color. And here's a fact. Your color will not stop you from voting in 2021. If you want to cast a vote bad enough, you'll go get an ID. You will go vote at the appropriate times. You'll provide the appropriate documents. I mean, guys, it's as simple as that. But of course, democratic when these democratic politicians do it, it is quote unquote uncharted territories. But if it was a Republican led movement to deny a Democrat bill, oh my goodness, guys, it would be the entire media would be jumping all over this and just talking about, oh, the Republicans again, the racist Republicans again are looking to just undermine all of our democracy. So the New York Times reports Texas Democrats flee state to highlight GOP voting restrictions. The move is an attempt to block Republicans from passing new voting bill while also applying pressure on Congress to pass legislation at the federal level. So you guys already know how this is gonna go. They're gonna boo-hoo and cry about people of color being oppressed, being suppressed, all of this nonsense that is really just bigotry. It's low standards for people of color, as if we or people of color, which is a stupid term, anyways, are being blocked by these laws when, like I said, if you want it, if you want to vote bad enough, you will go do it. So New York Times goes on to say Texas Democrats fled the state on Monday in a last-ditch effort to prevent the passage of a restrictive new voting law in the Republican-controlled legislature, heading to Washington to draw attention to what they portray as a damaging assault on the right to cast a ballot. So of course, it's a damaging assault on the right to cast a ballot. You need a ID. That is damaging assault. I mean, the democracy is falling as we speak. New York Times goes on to say the group left Austin in mid-afternoon on a pair of chartered flights that were scheduled to arrive by early morning. An official involved with the effort said more than 51 of the 67, listen to that, 51 of the 67 state House Democrat members had signed on, enough to prevent Texas Republicans from attaining a quorum, which is required to conduct state business. So basically, the Democrats knew, okay, if enough of us leave, they can't, by law, they continue with this bill. So let's just go ahead and bounce so we could slow this down. Okay, that's a great strategy. But the Democrats' move also lays bare their limited options in a legislature where the Republicans hold the majority in both chambers. Parliamentary procedures and efforts to add amendments can delay the process, but not derail it. All right, so this is not getting derailed. It looks as if this Texas voting bill is going to get pushed through, and what the Democrats are doing right now, they're just prolonging it. They are doing a photo op. This is political theater, as some would say. They are just whining and trying to pull a show off for their constituents, saying, "Look, we're fighting these mean, racist Republicans who want to take your vote." Okay. Anyways, moving on, leaving the state to prevent a quorum, Republicans said Monday would ultimately fail as well. So it's going to fail. So and I hope it fails because this is just a show. It's a show to just appease certain people. Representative Briscoe Kane, a Houston area Republican who chairs the House Election Committee, said Democrats' departure from the state slows things down, but would not prevent Republicans from ultimately passing the GOP backed voter overhaul bill in the 30-day special session. It's just delaying the inevitable, Mr. Kane said, describing the Democrats' move as political theater. By traveling en masse to Washington, the group was hoping to apply pressure to Democrats in the U.S. Senate who so far have been unable to pass federal legislation to address the issue. We have to decide if we are going to. This is funny. We have to decide if we are going to stand for democracy, said State Representative Trey Martinez Fisher, who organized the effort to leave the state. We want the nation to join us, and we want the U.S. Senate to hear us and act. The move comes just one day before President Biden is scheduled to deliver a major speech on voting rights in Philadelphia. Activists have been imploring the administration recently to address the issue with more urgency. In a news conference at the White House on Monday, Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary, said Mr. Biden would focus his speech on Tuesday in Philadelphia on a broad and pointed response to new restrictive voting legislation passed across the country. The recently passed voting laws, Ms. Psaki said, were the worst challenge to our democracy since the Civil War. And guys, I mean, we get it. We know where they're going. Um, as we pointed out earlier, when it's Democrats leading the charge, trying to upend a Republican-led effort to, at the end of the day, ensure that there is voter integrity, that people who vote are supposed to be voting. That's the whole goal of this legislation, is to ensure that if you are voting, you are a citizen and you are allowed to vote. At the end of the day, that's what they're doing. But the Democrats want to say that this is just the most recent assaults on the democracy. And like I said earlier, if this was switched, oh my goodness, everybody would be coming at the Republicans, and not saying, oh, that this is simply uncharted territory. No, there would be a conclusion. These people are vicious, fascist, and they are going to upend our democracy, and they're going to do it by a totalitarian or a dictatorship regime. And that is what they are. But of course, because it's the Democrats and they're talking about inclusion, this is seen as simply uncharted territory. But anyways, guys, I'm interested to see what you guys have to say about this. Where are we headed? What would happen if it was a Republican led politician, a Republican led group of politicians that decided to leave a state because they wanted to protest. They wanted to protest a democratic law. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you're notified anytime I make a video. If you want to support the channel, you can support me on Patreon, PayPal, and Cash App. Links all in the description below. Hit that like button one last time, guys. As always, I will see you on the next one. God bless. Peace.